Okay, good evening. Today I'm going to talk about tetralogy of Fallot. So the tetra refers to four. So therefore, it has four features. Ventricular septal defect. So the ventricular septal defect usually large and unrestricted. The unrestricted means there is no restriction between the flow of blood between the right and the left ventricle, like it acting as like one chamber. Second is pulmonary stenosis, or it can be also called as pulmonary infundibular stenosis. Third is overriding aorta. Fourth is right ventricular hypertrophy. Okay, now let's look at one of the features, which is pulmonary stenosis. So during in the pulmonary stenosis, the valves become narrowed. Thus, less oxygen is transported to the blood is transported to the lung. So when there is less blood is transported, therefore less blood getting the oxygen. So when there is low oxygen level, we become hypoxic. So when we become hypoxic, we tend to become cyanosis. So this long-standing cyanosis can lead to finger clubbing and also polycythemia. So why there is polycythemia? Because when we have low oxygen in our blood, right? Therefore, the body tend to compensate by producing more RBC. So when there is more RBC, we call it at polycythemia. So next is right ventricular hypertrophy. So why there is when there is restriction of blood to flow via the pulmonary artery, the blood tend to be stayed in the right ventricle. In order to compensate a high pressure, the muscles become more muscular. Therefore, the right ventricle become more hypertrophic. This right ventricular hypertrophic tend to give boot shape in the chest X-ray, or we also call it as Cohen-Sabot appearance. Okay, and the next is overriding aorta. So overriding aorta means the usual location of aorta should be at the left ventricle, but in overriding aorta, the aorta will be between the right ventricle and also the left ventricle. The last one is the ventricular septal defect. So in ventricular septal defect, there is no murmur because these two ventricles tend to act as a single chamber because it becomes unrestricted, right? So because the ventricular septal defect is usually large, so the pressure gradient between the right and the left ventricle is almost similar. Therefore, there is no forceful flow of blood. So when there is no forceful flow of blood, there is no murmur. However, in pulmonary stenosis, it tend to have ejection systolic murmur and single S2 sound because since there is less blood is going through the pulmonary artery, the second heart sound, pulmonary sound, tend to become soft and or it can be inaudible. And another reason why there is single S2 sound is the aorta tends to override in front of the pulmonary artery. That's why the sound becomes more and more softer. So in tetralogy of Fallot, we do not see heart failure because we do not see it is not a feature of heart failure. However, if the tetralogy of Fallot is complicated by infective endocarditis, myocarditis or anemia or systemic hypertension, they tend to have heart failure. So there are few investigations should have been done in tetralogy of Fallot. First is the chest X-ray. So in chest X-ray, we tend to see boot-shaped heart due to the right ventricular hypertrophy, or it also called as Cohen-Sabot. And the second feature is pulmonary oligemia. So olig refers to low. So emia means blood. So means there is less blood supplied to the pulmonary system. So when there is less blood supplied to the pulmonary system, the bronchovascular marking become less prominent. Therefore, we tend to call it as pulmonary oligemia. And then we can also do ECG, which means we tend to see right ventricular hypertrophy or right axis deviation. Another investigation is echocardiogram. So we tend to look at the anatomical features of the heart. Okay, there is an important thing we should know in the tetralogy of Fallot. We can also call it as hypercyanotic spell. So this hypercyanotic spell is actually a medical emergency. In usual tetralogy of Fallot, there is a right to left shunt right. So however, in hypercyanotic spell, these shunt tend to become more and more. So why this happens? Because the pressure in the right ventricle increases or the pressure in the left ventricle decreases. It can be maybe initiated by anything. For example, the baby is crying. So if the pressure in the right side increases, it reduces more and more blood supply to the lung. This more and more when it is reduced, when there is reduction of blood supply to the lung, the hypoxia become more worse. So it tend to give severe cyanosis. And then at the same time, there is very little blood flow across the pulmonary valves, right? So the murmur become absent or inaudible. So when we do ABG during the hypercyanotic spell, we tend to see acidosis, hypercapnia, and severe hypoxia. So when we have these three features, it will stimulate the respiratory center of the body. So the body tend to react by hyperapnea, which means the baby will breathe deep and faster. So this is the investigation. So let's look at the management of tetralogy of Fallot. So in simple tetralogy of Fallot, the definitive management is Blalock-Taussig shunt. So there are few indications to do the surgical procedure, which is hypercyanotic spell or severe cyanosis in the age of less than 6 months, small pulmonary arteries, anomalous coronary artery crossing in front of the right outflow tract. So right after the surgical, the patient should go for lifelong follow-up because the patient can have right ventricular dysfunction. So let's look at the Blalock-Taussig shunt. So it is actually a surgical procedure creating anastomosis between the subclavian artery. The subclavian artery is the first branch from the aortic arc, and it creates an anastomosis from the subclavian artery to the pulmonary artery. So this anastomosis reduces the cyanosis and also increases the pulmonary flow distal to the right ventricular outflow obstruction, which is the pulmonary stenosis. And the second management is, if the patient had tetralogy of Fallot with pulmonary atresia, we should give IV prostaglandin E infusion during the early neonatal period. And the management for hypercyanotic spell is, the hypercyanotic spell is a medical emergency, right? And it also causes reduction in the oxygen level. Therefore, we must give the 100% oxygen to the baby. Second, put the baby in a knee chest position with the mother, because this knee chest position tend to give calming effect and also increase the systemic vascular resistance. So when this systemic vascular resistance increases, it reduces the spasm and gives the patient IV or subcutaneous morphine because it reduces the distress. And then there is a spasm in the infundibular part, right? So in order to relieve the spasm, we should give IV propranolol or esmolol. and then give volume expander. Why it can be crystalloid or colloid? Because this volume expander will increase the preload and at the end increasing the cardiac output. And we should also give sodium bicarbonate sorry, because in hypercyanotic spell the body become acidotic, right, due to the low oxygen level. So in order to reduce the acidosis, we should give sodium bicarbonate, and then we should ventilate or intubate the patient. In some cases there might be resistance towards the medicine, so we should give IV phenylephrine or adrenaline infusion, and then prepare the patient for emergency Blalock Taussig shunt.